Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to the best channel on YouTube. We are back. We have a video. Obviously, today is a massive day. If you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, today was the Champions League draw, and it wasn't just any Champions League draw. It's the brand new format of the Champions League. So there's a lot going on. A lot of people are extremely confused, which at some point I can't really blame them for. I understand it is confusing, and to the defense of everyone that is confused, the reason that I understand this a lot easier is that we have already a format kind of like this in the NBA, which is basketball in America. So it makes a lot more sense what they're doing. First of all, for me, my first takes on the new format, if you guys don't know already this year, it's not going to be just group stages. What they're doing this year is all 32 teams in the Champions League are playing in a league table. So think of it like whatever league table you follow, whatever league you like, right? All the teams in the Champions League are going to be playing in this table, and they will play 8 matches. Every team will play 8 matches. They're going to play 4 home and 4 away. I felt like UEFA didn't really explain this stuff on their website that well. So the goal of the video today, I want you guys to understand kind of how the Champions League draw works so you guys all get it. And I want to give you guys my thoughts, my reaction on some of the draws. And get in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think of it. Do you like the new system? Do you not like it? If you like it, tell me why. If you don't like it, tell me why you don't like it. Now, as I was saying, so every team in this 32 teams will play 8 matches, right? That is up because obviously in the previous year it was 6. So already they're going to play 2 more matches. Now, this is where it gets interesting. And this is where I'm going to start to explain, and I'm going to give you guys a visual so everybody here can understand this. So it works as a league table, and I'm going to minus my face cam just a bit here so you guys can kind of really see this. Actually, you know what? I'll just put it up here. So this is kind of how it's going to work. It's going to look like a bracket, right? And so essentially, the teams that finish 1 to 8 in the table, so they finish 1 to 8 based on how many points they get, they will be automatically qualified for the round of 16. Now, the teams that finish in the middle of the table, 9 to 24, will face off in a playoff round before the round of 16. So they will face off in a playoff round before the round of 16. And I'm pretty sure the way this works as well, there's going to be 1 or 2 things I say in this video that may not be right. But to my understanding, I think the higher seeded team, they said most likely will play home on the return leg, which is obviously a massive advantage. So for example, let's look at the matchup here in the playoffs over here. You might not be able to see my mouse. If you can, great. 23 or 24 is going to face 9 or 10. So the reason it works like that is that if you finish 9 or 10 after the 8 games, you get rewarded for that because you're going to play a team that's 23 or 24, which means they didn't really do that good. They just got in. And so basically, that 9 or 10 team would probably play away first leg, and then they would play home second leg. So that's kind of the reward for getting the higher seed. And this is how it's going to be. After that, I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but what I believe is that 9 or 10 is going to play 7 or 8, right? So obviously right away you can see 1 or 2 gets an advantage with their seeding from finishing 1 or 2 out of the 32 teams in the table because they will play the winner of 17 or 18 versus 15 or 16, if that makes sense. So it's a bracket style. This is how it will go. So essentially what's going to happen though, I believe, is that the teams that essentially will go into the playoffs will actually see themselves playing 4 extra games because than the previous season. And what I mean by that is that originally in the Champions League, you played 6 group stage matches and then you qualified for the knockouts. Now, some teams obviously went down to Europa. I don't think that's happening anymore. And what's going to happen this year is that some of these teams, are going to play the 2 extra matches right away, and then are also going to play 2 matches in the playoffs. So they could end up playing a record number of games. That's kind of why they gave Cristiano Ronaldo an award today, because the format is changing. There's going to be more games. We're probably going to be seeing if Haaland stays healthy. Probably he will break almost every record. I mean, Man City would be looking at 8 games plus the round of 16, plus the quarterfinals, plus the semifinals, plus the finals, right? So that's like, 11 or 12 games overall? No, that's even more games because obviously the round of 16, the round of 8, the quarterfinals, the semifinals all have 2-leg formats until you get to the final, right? So never mind that. There's going to be a ton of Champions League games this year. And look, for me overall, I really like this format, and I'm going to explain to you guys why I like it. The only downside for this for me is I feel bad for the players. The players in this format are actually the ones that are suffering, where we're going to enjoy the entertainment. We're going to see matchups that we have never seen, and we're going to see smaller teams, in my opinion, having a larger Champions League impact. They're going to have more of a chance to go through. They're going to play teams, more crazy teams, which means their club is going to make more money. Overall, I think it is a really good change. Obviously, the change that they made, though, is just because it's going to make them more money. They found a way, hey, how can we make the most money possible out of our competition? And unfortunately, that's what the world really is these days. I mean, everyone is trying to make the most money they can. I can't say I'm not guilty of that, but there are times definitely where I turn down deals that I don't feel like are right. At the end of the day, this is just football, and they're gonna have to play a couple extra games. Hopefully, there's not too many injuries. Yeah, I want to keep explaining this to you guys so you get it. So, what I really like here, obviously, is this, right? So, whoever finishes 1 or 2 is going to be up here in the round of 16, and then obviously on the other side, let's say 1 goes on this side, 2 goes on this side. So, what I really like about this is that the randomness of the knockout stages is not going to be as random. So the top 2 teams will be on the opposite sides of the bracket, which means if all things considered, with the style this is, there is going to be a randomness to, like, let's say City have a bad game and they finish 4 and then one side is stacked. But we've seen some previous years where some sides of the knockouts were so stacked and the other side was like one good team, out of 8 on the round of 16 on that side. So I think we will see a little bit more equalness here, which I like. And let me just keep talking to you guys a little bit about what's going on here. So, for example, let's look at Liverpool, right? So the official schedule has not been released until Saturday. So right now, all we know is basically, for example, the teams that they're going to play. What they've got to do now from now, Thursday, until Saturday, UEFA's got to go through and conduct this way in a way where they have to look at what's going on with the leagues and kind of even all this out, right? Now, a lot of people have already been saying the draw is rigged today. Let's be honest, nothing has changed. Everyone has always said UEFA and the Champions League draw is rigged. That's what everyone says every single year. So a computer, I guess, did this draw today. So, for example, right, you had teams in pot 1, pot 2, pot 3, pot 4, and it was normal in the sense of that was the draw, right? So Liverpool is a team that was in pot 1, right? So Liverpool, you have to play 2 teams from every pot. So Liverpool has to play Madrid and Leipzig. Those were 2 of the random teams they play from pot 1. They're going to play Leverkusen and Milan, 2 of the random teams from pot 2. And then they're going to play Lille, PSV, Bologna, Girona. Now, for me, what I thought was really interesting here, and I'm going to go through and show you guys this, right? So this is like pot 1 as a whole. And I'm going to put my face cam just over here and minus it a little bit so you guys can see it. So what I thought was really interesting about, this draw, obviously it's random, but you see some situations, for example, where you're going to get so much football. You're going to get some crazy matchups. So let's take a look at 2 teams here who I think out of pot 1 got the toughest draw. It's PSG and Liverpool. Look at the matchups they got, right? Because the way it works here is that pot 2 had some really crazy teams. Pot 2 had Atletico Madrid, Juventus, who've started off the season so well. But all in all, they had Arsenal and they had Atalanta, and they had Leverkusen. So let's break that down for a second. Arsenal right now are the 3rd favorite to win the Champions League this year, and they're in pot 2. Atletico Madrid made incredible signings. They're in pot 2. They're not an easy team. They are known as more of a Champions League team, if anything, right? Leverkusen have magic on this team. They were in pot 2. They almost did the impossible last season. The team that beat Leverkusen was in pot 2, Atalanta. And then you have 2 teams where Milan and Juve, Milan have shown they can do it in the past. They're one of the most winning teams in Champions League history. They were doing really well 2 seasons ago. Haven't started the season well. And then you got Juventus, who have been like some surprising team to start the season. It's such a crazy format because then you go over to pot 4 and you have some teams that sneak in there like Villa, who's going to be a really tough game for a lot of people, right? And then you have Stuttgart. And the funniest part about the way the draw is like some teams, right? They got, I forget even the team name of SGR, right? Some teams got SGR and like Sparta Prague, right? Or Praha. I don't even know these teams, to be honest. I watched one team today from Eastern Europe that was cooking. Back to what I was saying about PSG and Liverpool. I don't know what tangent I just went on, but PSG and Liverpool, they got a much tougher draw than a lot of other teams. For example, you look at PSG, they got Man City, Bayern, they got Atletico, Arsenal, they got PSV, Salzburg, and they got Girona and Stuttgart. And you look at Liverpool, they got Madrid, Leipzig, they got Leverkusen and Milan, Lille, PSV, Bologna, Girona. Now, people would look at Liverpool's and say, hey, Lille and PSV, Bologna, and Girona, they're not really that tough. Those clubs, though, in those groups are a lot tougher than the other clubs available, in my opinion, right? They're just known clubs that have done well in the past, and I think it will be tougher. So they got tougher draws. We look at teams, for example, I would say overall, like look at Barcelona's draw. Bayern is never easy in Champions League. Dortmund, same thing, but then you have Atalanta, Benfica, compared to what could have been, no disrespect to those 2 clubs, by the way, because they're both very good, could have been, Arsenal, Leverkusen. That's like a death sentence. Like Inter got that. as well, and that's really tough. For example, in pot one, a lot of those teams, if you got Leipzig, it's a little easier, right, compared to some of those other teams. So I think it's very exciting, and I'm going to explain to you guys as well why I think it is so exciting, because I want to show you guys a scenario in pot three and why I think this really can favor, the smaller teams. So we look at this as a table. It's 8 games, right? FM, which is Football Manager, they did a kind of like run through of what could happen. And really overall, after a couple saves, I think for this new format, 10 points got you through to 24th. If you finish less than 24th in the table, you're out. It's over, right? So you got to try to get into that top 24. Top 8 guarantees you already in the knockout, right? If you're 9 to 24, you're going to face off in a knockout round before the knockout round, and then you're going to play a team seeded pretty well. If you're a 24 seed, it's going to be tough. Even if you win your it's just overall, it's going to be a tough situation. But what I wanted to show you guys is like, in a normal scenario, we've seen over the years a team like Celtic, right? Let's look at the old format. So we have these pots. Let's say Man City's in a group with Leverkusen or Atletico Madrid, Celtic, and let's put Stuttgart in there, right? Celtic in that group would have no chance. No chance. They're not getting out of that group, right? And that's the problem. Over the time, I feel like with Champions League, it is boring if you don't get a good draw. And a lot of the groups are kind of boring because you have such a difference in talent level over 2 matches. It's not just one match. So we're talking about 2 points here. The first point is that these games are one game. So let's say Haaland has an injury. Let's say someone's in bad form. I mean, this is a long season. These games are going to be 8 games spread out across the season. Let's say someone's out of form. There's an injury. It gives these smaller teams a chance to steal a result, especially if they're at home. We've seen so many teams. That's what people don't understand. We've seen so many teams do really well against these larger teams in one leg. And it's like, wow, in this format, if let's say Celtic, or not even Celtic, let's say Lille are just having a monster game. They're not supposed to beat Madrid, and they upset Madrid. Or let's say, because they're at home, they just play better, and Madrid has a bad game. It could happen, but those 3 points mean a lot, and it gives that team a crazy chance now. And the real other situation I'll talk about here is that what I was saying before I went on this yap tangent, right? Celtic, for example. Celtic, actually, if you are watching this video, you're a Celtic fan, and there's other scenarios. It's going to be too long to talk through all the scenarios. They actually have a really good chance. I'm not saying that their team is good enough necessarily to do this, but they actually have a chance to qualify, which is something new for these small teams. Not only are they going to make more money, they have Leipzig, Dortmund, Bruges, Atalanta, Young Boys, Zagreb, and then the other 2 teams in pot 4, right? Villa is obviously tough, but that scenario for them is way more favorable than obviously some of the other teams here. Let's take a look at who's got a really tough matchup here. I mean, Lille obviously is really tough, right? Or Salzburg is really tough. I mean, there's other examples, right? They have basically 4 games that are going to be hell, and then the other 4 games they're going to have to battle. But Celtic have a better draw because I think a couple of those in the beginning part are actually favorable. I mean, being at home against Bruges is way better than being at home against Arsenal or Leverkusen, So that's where I think, if it is a road to 10 points, 11 points, 12 points gets you in, you're going to see that where really, if you could get 3 wins out of the 8, even for smaller teams, right, and get a draw or 2, you might be through to a knockout, which is a huge deal. It's a lot of money for these clubs. And for me, it's just exciting, man. We're going to get to see so many more matchups. Even when I was looking at, pot 1, I mean, just listen to this, right? We're going to get to see Liverpool at home, Anfield versus Madrid, then away at Leipzig, then home against Leverkusen, away at Milan, home against Lille. I mean, we're going to see a lot of these teams are going to be playing 4, 5, 6 insane matchups, man, which is going to be awesome because I feel like at times in the previous Champions League, we even look at some match weeks and there's only one good game a week. So the schedule is not out yet. This is not going to be the order of the schedule. It's going to be randomized based on the schedules. But all I'm going to say is that, for some of these match weeks, I mean, it looks like we're going to have 4 to 6 to 7 insane games per week, which we've had in the past where Champions League doesn't give you that. And then there's some match weeks where it's so hype. But I really like this format in that regard for the couple of reasons that I just talked about. And that's my take on it. I really like it. And, just to reiterate, hopefully it makes sense to you guys, the whole format of all of this. If you need to understand again, go back and watch it. And then essentially for the playoffs, right, there is such a value on your table finish, which is good. They've really done a good job here. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you finish first or second, okay? You're going to be playing, all right? You're going to be playing the winner of the last, basically, you're not even going to be playing a 9 or a 10 team, right, in the table. You know, which is theoretically you're at such an advantage for getting first or second because you're going to play a mid-table team at 15 or 16, the winner of 15, 16, and the winner, you know, of 17 or 18, whatever's the draw for that one. And, you know, then if you're at 7th or 8th, right, and the 9th or 10th place team is, let's say, better than the 7th or 8th place team, they win their first knockout, and then they're going to play 7 or 8. So there is a reward on how you do in the table, which I really like. Even a reward for if you get 9th or 24th. You know, yeah, if you get 24th, you sneak into that conversation, but you're still going to have to play a 9th or a 10 team. And if we go look at the teams, right? If we go look at the teams, you know, this is pot 1, right? So Madrid, City, Bayern, PSG, Liverpool, Inter, Dortmund, Leipzig, Barca. And then we go to pot 2. I mean, it's crazy. We're going to see some teams in pot 1 not finishing in the top 8. Those teams will be somewhere in that 8 to 16 range. We'll probably have one team that really stinks it up with this format. I mean, 8 games is a lot, but I expect in pot 2, I expect Arsenal to get in the top 8. Right? I think they're good enough. Juve's playing sick. I expect Atleti and Leverkusen to be very strong candidates to get in the top 8. So that means other teams are going to be in and out. You know, Benfica always good in this competition. Maybe Milan actually figure it out. Atalanta, you just never know with them. You even go over to pot 3. Nah, you don't really go there. I don't know. Are that many teams in pot 3 going to go crazy? Maybe Sporting. I don't know. Sporting is a decent one. And then you go to pot 4. You know, even people that watch my videos that are huge Stuttgart or Villa fans. I know there's a lot of fans for those two teams, right? Villa, yeah, it sucks. You got to play Bayern. You get them at home, though. You go away to Leipzig. You also get Juve at home. And then you get Bruges away. So you guys have a pretty good schedule there. You have a chance, too, to do pretty well. You got Celtic, Young Boys, Bologna, and then Monaco at the end. So this format, we looked at what happened to Newcastle. We looked at all these teams that were new in the Champions League last year. Any team that's playing their first Champions League, even not so much, even just teams that have been here that keep getting grouped. This scenario is a lot better for these clubs to make more money and to have more exciting games. Just overall, what I will say, though, is that it's going to be really tough on the players because it's a lot more on the strain. What I wanted to go through here as well, the odds right now just for this, Man City are favored, Real Madrid are favored. Those are really the top 2 favorites. They've been the top 2 favorites for a while. It's a huge drop-off then. Then it's Arsenal and Bayern. I'm kind of surprised Arsenal are third, but I guess it does make sense. Erling Haaland is the favorite for the top goal scorer. And, yeah, what do you guys think, man? Hopefully this explanation kind of helped a little bit more. I watched the video on the UEFA website. It was really confusing, so hopefully this helped you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. What do you guys think of the new format? And, dude, 3 weeks away. This all starts on the 17th. Oh, one more thing. Champions League is going to be played on Thursdays this year. I think a couple Thursdays. The first week, they're going to be playing on Thursday as well. Kind of interesting. So, thanks for watching, guys. Peace.